Stitchy friends, how are you all doing? This is Mieke on Saturday, June 15, and I'm here to finally film another floss date. Floss date? I'm having a floss date with you apparently, but I mean to say Flosstube update. How are you all doing? I hope you are stitching away happily. Get yourself a beverage. Let's have a fun visit together. I have loads of things to tell you. We are halfway into June, and it was originally my intention to film earlier on in June to give you my mania update. As you can see by the title, this video is called Mieke's Mini Mania, a hashtag courtesy of the wonderful Sabine. Sabine, hi! Thank you again for the fun. But this video covers not just May, it also covers April since retreat and the first 2 weeks of June. So there is a lot of things to catch up on. As usual, I will first tell you about my stitching and show you my stitching, of course, and I will leave the life updates to the end of the video. Last time we spoke, I had just come back home from our wonderful Dutch stitch retreat. So that was April 8th or 9th. And the rest of April have been pretty much monogamous stitching. I stitched solely on the retreat start that we did with Team Tilton, aka Denise, Dunja and me. I stitched on Takaki's Promise to Heart. Insert picture here. As I told you in my previous video already, this piece is confetti. Confetti, confetti, confetti. And I quite quickly discovered that I was not feeling happy anymore with my stitching row by row by row. There were so many colors. The entire piece has 140 colors. Yes, 140. So what to do? And then thanks to just some random Instagram scrolling, I found somebody mentioning the easy PDF tutorial video by our well-known and beloved Ginger Gerald Stitcher. I looked it up, I completely fell for it. I downloaded the app and it has been working like a charm. I'll of course link Gerald's video down below. I'm having a lot of fun with Easy PDF, and I managed to stitch so fast that I completed 2 full pages on Promise to Heart in less than a month. You want to see? Here you go. That is my progress just in 1 month. This is the top left corner. This is page 2. And as you can see, we have the structure of our dark blue cathedral. We have a beautiful vine spiraling down from the ceiling. And we have the beginnings of that gorgeous but also confetti-filled stained glass window. Look at that detail. Oh, love, 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 love this piece. I am so happy with Easy PDF and the whole cross-country method of stitching. I'm going to stick with that. I need to find some space behind the camera. That was basically all the stitching that I did in April. And then May was, of course, Stitch Mania. I had kitted up 3 new projects over the course of retreat and March. And the wonderful Sabine coined the term, let's do it, hashtag Mieke's Mini Mania. And I loved that idea. So that is what I used on Instagram. That is the title of the video here. I originally planned to start 3 things over the course of May, but it became 5. Which I think is still some kind of mini mania, although not as mini as I had originally thought. Halfway through May, there was, of course, also the birthday week of our beloved Ingeborg, A Stitch Too Far. I participated in that. I started something in her favorite color, green, for her birthday. And then towards the end of May, as I was slowly easing back into work, I dedicated a 5th new start to going back to work. So let's work our way through them. The first start in May was Ink Circle's Castle Walls. The beautiful new design that I bought in the Handwerk Boutique, the shop, the LNS that we visited during retreat, and that quickly became another stitch along together with Debbie, Creatively Yours, and Dunja. I'm not stitching it in the cold four colors because I thought they were a bit too bland for my taste. I'm stitching the lighter colors in, here we go again, my absolute favorite Hank silks for you. This is PR 147, otherwise known as The Temptation by Ingeborg and Annerique. As Ingeborg has mentioned already, this is ridiculously difficult to get correct up on camera. It looks like electric blue and dark blue. It is actually much more teal, but it is gorgeous. This is a hank that I split in half with Patricia, and half of it is more than enough for the lighter parts of Castle Walls. And then for the darker parts, I'm pairing it with Gloriana's Midnights. That looks like a Mieke combination, right? I fell in love with this piece the moment I started stitching on it. And I loved that you guys showed so much love for it on Instagram as well. And I got quite a bit done in about the 10 days that I stitched on it. Here you go. That's where it shows up correctly. This beautiful fabric is 36 count linen in turquoise sky, by X2 Design. This is the center. You can see the motif that is like a beautiful stained glass window in a Parisian cathedral. Here is the first gargoyle slowly coming up. You can see if you put it on the side that he sort of walks like the thriller zombies or the Walking Dead. Patricia, there's your cue. And then here the first border is stitched in Gloriana Midnight. I love this piece. I'm stitching it 2/2 with the ball pointed needles that we got at retreat, which I very much like and I am enjoying. So this is a beautiful piece. Every time I stitch on it, I think about Paris, I think about Mev, I think about retreat and all the fun that we had. So that was Mieke's Mania start number 1. Start number 2 is something that I can't show you. Stupid. That has never happened before in the history of, how many videos do we have now? I believe this is number 30. We are at 30 videos. And exactly in this video, I have forgotten to pack a project in order to show it to you. It's at my parents' place, the project that I'm talking about. And I didn't think that I would have the opportunity to film this video before I go on holiday next week together with Sasha. But it's at my parents' place. I don't have it here, I'm sorry. But I will of course put in pictures. We are talking about Long Dog Sampler's Crossword. Long Dog Samplers released Crossword, I believe, somewhere towards the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019. It's a new piece and I just loved it. I could immediately see that hanging in my kitchen or in my hallway. I love the feel of it. I love the motifs and I of course love all the words. Let me put in a picture of the progress that I made. Isn't that pretty? That beautiful blue-green variegated silk that you see there for the motifs is the hank of silk from Miss Usedas that I showed you last time. It is a hank that she dyed and named in my honor, which still baffles me. It's called Darling. And since Jan Hicks Creates bought a hank of that as well, it has completely blown up all over Facebook and Instagram. And it makes me very happy to see that this particular hank is getting so much love from all our stitchers. That's fantastic. And Miss Ucedas is a fantastic dyer, so if you haven't visited her Etsy shop yet, I'm of course linking it down below. And I strongly recommend that you watch your purse when you visit that shop, because she has fantastic colorways. The solid thread that you see use me for the letters and the boxes around the letters is DMC 3844. I had originally planned to use a much darker blue, DMC 820, for that. But I'm going to put in pictures where you can see the comparison between the two. And I just thought that 820 was too stark and too dark, and it took away the beautiful variegation in the silk. Here you can compare it for yourself. Much happier with 3844, which is one of my favorite DMCs. That was Mania Start number 2. Then we arrived halfway through May in Ingeborg's birthday week, which had the hashtag AB Day Too Far Stitch Along. I worked on castle walls, I worked on Crossword, and for Ingeborg's birthday on the Saturday, May 18th, did I remember that correctly? I decided to go for a new start. Ink circles, another ink circles, the birds and the bees. If you've been watching me for a little while longer, you know that this was in my enormous box of kitted up projects to start somewhere in 2019. This got scored very high by you guys. I believe it ended in 2nd place or 3rd place. It was somewhere in the top 3. And Ingeborg's favorite color is green. Green was one of the prompts during her birthday stitch along week, and I couldn't resist to start this in honor of her birthday. But I mixed up the plan. I had originally intended to stitch it in a DMC color variations 4025, which is a beautiful teal, dark blue venturing into blue gray. But I opted for Gloriana's when the moment came. You know this thread if you've been watching me for a while longer. This is the gorgeous Sumatra. Gloriana's released this thread in combination with Ink Circle's Forests of Sumatra that she released for Nashville last year. It is still one of my favorite colors. It is so pretty. And I thought that that would be a perfect thread for the fabric that I had picked for Birds and the Bees. You want to see my start? Here you go. That shows up very accurately. This is 36 count Cecropia Caterpillar, a linen by Barbarol Creations over on Etsy. It is green, yellowish green, hints of blue. It is wonderful, it's gorgeous. And I think it pairs magnificently with Gloriana's Sumatra. This is the center. You can see that we have some bees and we have one of the birds already. And this is already the left edge of the pattern. It's not a biggie, it's a small pattern, especially compared to the things that I normally like to stitch. Yeah, this is a joy to stitch on, and I think of Ingeborg every time I stitch on it, and I also think of Sasha every time I stitch on it because green is her favorite color as well. I can see myself hanging this on my balcony at some point, you know, with good glass, good glass, good protection and everything. But this it would be a nice, you know, balcony piece. That was the start that I did for Ingeborg's birthday. That left us with one planned Mania start, a project that I had also kitted up during our retreat weekend. Ink Circles Baroque. Ink Circles, I told you the story about Ink Circles Baroque in my last video, how I had picked that beautiful Peacock Elegance fabric that XJU had dyed specifically for me during retreat. How we had, you know, searched and searched and searched for threads, and we eventually came up with a beautiful combination of Weeks Dye Works and Gloriana's. Weeks Dye Works Santa Cruz and Gloriana's Blue Grass, which is all beautiful kinds of blue and green, bronze, gold. Yes, heck yes. I started it a little bit later, not even during Mania anymore, in the beginning of June, because I only have enough threads for this piece to stitch it 1/2. And the fabric that I had bought from XJU is a 36 count. And 36 count 1 thread over 2 is not always my cup of tea. So I messaged XJU somewhere during May, could you also dye Peacock Elegance in a 40 count linen for me? She happily complied. It got here super quick, but it did look quite a bit different. You know what? I do have that fabric here. Let me get it a second so you can see what I mean. Back again. Here is Peacock Elegance in 40 count linen. It's beautiful. I can't wait to stitch something on this. I already have something in mind that might be a start somewhere during the summer, entirely from stash, but look at that. And as always, it smells fantastic. But as always, you know, with different fabric counts, different sorts of fabric, just different, you know, weather types, one batch will be different from the next. And this beautiful fabric turned out a lot greener than the Peacock Elegance that I already had. Let me show you. Do you see that? This is more saturated and more green than the original 36 count. And when I paired the 40 count with the Weeks Dye Works, and especially the Gloriana's Blue Grass, it didn't pop as much. It's still, I mean, it's still very pretty, but it didn't pop as much off the 36 count as I wanted it. So in the end, I went with my original choice and I started Baroque on 36 count Peacock Elegance. Here you go. That is very accurate, how it shows up there. This is the center motif stitched in 1 thread of Weeks Dye Works Santa Cruz. Yeah, that's very accurate. Thank God. Sometimes it is so difficult to get these bright colors correctly up on screen. That is the center. And I'm actually really happy that I stuck with my original choice. This is a piece where I do need to, you know, be in a bright mood because there is lots of counting involved. And of course, everything needs to be symmetrical. So otherwise you end up with trouble later on in the pattern. But that is my start on Baroque. And as I told you last time, this is the center motif. See? The center motif and the little inner border are going to be stitched in Weeks Dye Works Santa Cruz, and everything else will be in the Gloriana's Blue Grass. And I think that will make for a wonderful, wonderful pattern. If you've been counting along with me, you know that we are now up to 4 new starts, and the 5th was a very special one. I told you in my last video that by the next time I saw you, which is now, I would have made the enormous step of going back to work. And I have. I'll tell you all about that in the live updates, which are coming up in a second. And there is one special piece in my stitching that is dedicated to this whole journey of going back to work and, you know, getting a job coach later on in the whole trajectory and finding a job that makes me happy and that fits my talents. And that is this project. Long Dog Sampler's Scarlet Ribbons. I've told you before how I am planning to remove the little sayings in the quote or in the design, and to replace them with a beautiful quote by my favorite architect Gaudi about how in order to do great work, you first need to love what you do. That is, such a theme for me this year. I had started this project last September in Gloriana's Sumatra, the beautiful green silk that I just showed you. But no matter how much I love that thread, it's not entirely me. Me is blue. And when I started working with that beautiful Silks for You PR147, I got an idea. So what did I do? I ordered myself another full hank of it. I got out a piece of vintage marmor Murano 32 count Lugana, which is one of the favorite fabrics that I have. I've stitched quite a few things on there, and I restarted Scarlet Ribbons, and I'm so happy that I did. So that was my 5th and very much unplanned Mickey's Mini Mania start. Here's my start on it. Isn't that me? It is such a shame that this will not show up as gorgeous as it is. It already looks gorgeous on screen, but you can see that, the camera just has trouble capturing it correctly. It is more bluish green than you see it here, but it is gorgeous in whatever way, in real life as well as on camera. I'm super happy that I restarted this, and I think that this project might become my focus over the summer as we, build up the work hours. So that was the stitching update, I think. Quite quick. That's good. That's good progress. So now let's do life updates. Last time we spoke was early April. I believe it was April 8th or 9th. I had just come back home from retreat. And in the days that followed, I somehow landed in some kind of funk. Recovering from, a burnout is very much a process that goes with ups and downs. And I landed in an enormous down, and I didn't know why. I felt very down. I felt very tired for weeks and weeks. I started needing my afternoon sleeps again. I would experience these weird sudden moments of dizziness all over again. Something was off. So after that had dragged on for a couple of weeks, I called my doctor and I asked if we could get, my blood checked again. We did that. The tests came back perfect. So that was good. My iron levels were still, super high. It had risen even a little bit higher than January. So, that said something about my diet, which was good. But there was apparently no physical explanation of why I was feeling so, down in dumps. We are a few weeks further now. I can thankfully tell you that I have recovered from that. And I think looking back on it, it was a couple of mental things. First up, it was definitely the tension of going back to work. For the longest time in these, 9 months of being full-time on sick leave, work was somewhere in the back of my mind. I knew that it would appear on the horizon again at some point, but it was in the back of my mind where it needed to be in that specific stage of, my recovery. But when the company doctor and I decided that, okay, here is the plan, here is a guideline for the hours that you're going to work, it almost literally felt like the cogwheels in my brain started turning differently. All of a sudden, work was right before me again. That made me tense, that made me anxious, that made me nervous. And yeah, that definitely did something to me. The second thing that did something to me was that we intensified my therapy. per my own request. I wanted it, myself. And I will tell you all about that in a minute. But things got, more intense, more emotional, more exhausting, and that cost a lot of energy. Thankfully, halfway through the month of May, something fantastic happened. Something that lifted me out of that funk in a heartbeat, and something that has given me an enormous energy boost. And I am bursting at the seams to tell you all about that, but I have decided to wait with that until my next video. It's not my intention to tease you, it's not my intention to play with this, but things are still in, let's say, developing stages. And I don't yet feel comfortable enough to tell you the whole story. So I'm going to save it for hopefully next video when things will, all be safe and secure. But it's a fun story. It's a fun story and I can't wait to tell you. But anyway, halfway through May, I started feeling a lot better. And thankfully that line has, gone upwards until now. I have started back at work. I have started in a different office under a different manager on a different department, and I am super glad with that choice. I was very nervous when I drove to the office in Arnhem for the first time because, how is it going to go? But the manager of that team is just a wonderful woman. She took her time with me. She was very interested, very open, and I felt very safe with her. I've been going to work for 3 times now, twice in Arnhem and once in my own office here in Ede, to try and revive the old laptop that has been, gathering dust for 9 months. And last week was a bit difficult. It was very busy in the office. There was lots of noise, lots of people, lots of, haste. And I could definitely tell that had an impact on me. I was supposed to stay there for 2 hours. And after an hour and a half, my mind was completely at full capacity. And I decided to leave. But that is okay. And it is good that I felt safe enough and free enough to say, hey, you know what? I don't feel good anymore. I'm going to go back home for now. And we're going to try again next time. So the big hurdle of going back to work has been taken. And I am super proud of that. I feel happy about that. And we will just slowly, bit by bit, build things up. And in the meantime, there's lots of other things to occupy myself with. And now the big chunk that I would like to share with you is about how we intensified my therapy. We did a sort of, mid-term evaluation a couple of weeks ago, back in March. And one of the reasons that I chose the therapist that I have is because she has a specialization in something that's called EMDR. EMDR is a form of trauma therapy that has become, at least in our neck of the woods, pretty popular in the last years. And it stands for eye movement desensitization. I wrote it down. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a mouthful. If you want to know more, I can definitely recommend that you look up videos about EMDR here on YouTube or you Google it. I am just, a normal person. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a healthcare degree, so I can only tell you what I know about it, but I can definitely tell you what my experience with it is, which is fantastic. Like I said, EMDR is a form of trauma therapy. It helps you to reprocess things in your mind, memories from traumatic experiences. Everybody experiences trauma in some form at some point in their life. Sorry about that. My phone decided to fall off the stack of books that it's standing on. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was just telling you that everybody experiences trauma in his or her life in some way or form. And I learned throughout therapy that I have never allowed myself to label the traumatic experiences in my life as such. I have always associated the word trauma with, big traumatic life events. War, famine, sexual assault, domestic violence, stuff like that. But there came a moment throughout one of the therapy sessions where my therapist was sitting across from me. I was sharing a story about something that had happened at work that had, caused me to have a panic attack. And I saw her writing down the words traumatic experience. And I said to her, why do you label it like that? I mean, that's way too heavy. And she then looked me in the eye and she told me, no, it's not too heavy. It is exactly what it is. This is something that caused a major emotional reaction in you. It gave you a panic attack. That's not something light. That's not a normal reaction to a work situation like that. This is something traumatic for you. And that statement opened up the possibility in my mind that yes, indeed, there have been traumatic events in my life. Nothing major like the things that I just mentioned, but still, we are human beings. We are, unfortunately, very capable of, hurting and damaging each other. And throughout the course of my life, there have been various moments where, in my childhood, but also in my adult life, people have hurt me. Sometimes they meant it, sometimes they didn't, but it happened and it caused a sort of jail in my mind. For the longest time in this burnout process, I have experienced my mind as something that is behind bars. I'm suffocating inside my own head. There is no air, there is no oxygen, there is no freedom, there is no light. It's stuck in a dark, literally dark place. And that is where the EMDR therapy comes in. EMDR teaches you, better said, it forces your brain to disconnect intense emotions from traumatic experiences. What it basically does, and once again, YouTube it for better references, but what it basically does is you activate the memory of a traumatic experience. You play that memory like a video in your mind, and while you focus on that experience, your therapist will start waving her fingers in front of your eyes like this. And she asks you, or he asks you, they ask you to focus your eyes on that, which takes a lot. I mean, try it just for a few seconds. It tires your eyes immediately. And the two things combined, accessing that memory and, focusing your eyes on that movement, it completely overloads your brain, the working memory of your brain, let's say. And due to that overloading, your brain gets forced to disconnect the intense emotion from the memory. The memory itself becomes, vaguer in your mind. It becomes a bit misty. It takes time. The first time that we did it, it took almost an hour for me to lose the panic that was attached to a specific memory, but it does work. And when the emotion is disconnected from the memory, and that is the D in EMDR, you can then reprocess it. You can attach positive notions to that memory. For instance, the notion, if situation A happens, I can handle it. I can control it. I am safe. I am worthwhile, I am whatever positive notion you need in your personal situation. And let me tell you, that stuff works. It is insane what that does to your mind. We have EMDR'd 2 memories by now. In a few weeks' time, we'll do a 3rd one. It is completely exhausting. My therapist warned me, you know, if you've been with me in the morning, keep the rest of the day off because you'll need to sleep. And she was right. As soon as I came home, I zoned out on the couch or in my bed. But it works. It works wonders in my experience. That jail that I was just talking about, the metaphor of those jail bars that your brain is locked behind, it feels like those bars are sliding open. It feels like there is space in my mind. Air, oxygen, light, freedom to think without, you know, the cramp of, oh, this is scary, this is something that I'm afraid of. That is what it does to me. And I don't just feel that in my brain, I also see it in my behavior. We started EMDR early in May, so we've been doing it for about 6 weeks now. And honestly, I have seen myself do things and say things that seems completely out of character. I've been acting on impulses and making super quick decisions purely based on gut feeling, which is something that I never dared do. I would always, you know, research everything and analyze everything and make sure that, you know, I made a good, well-researched, well-documented decision. It's fantastic. And what I've also noticed, and I think that is probably the biggest victory so far, I've been in a couple of difficult emotional conversations in the last weeks where I had a choice to tell people how they made me feel or to keep my mouth shut. Old style Mika, let's say, would often keep her mouth shut. She would not let people know how they made her feel because the chance existed that they would reject those feelings or that the relationship could become damaged. New style Mika decided to speak up. In my value system, there has always been a priority for maintaining the relationship, keeping the relationship intact. And my own emotional needs were much lower than that. And that comes from, you know, that stems from my negative self-image, my fear of failing. The two combined are not a very good cocktail. I have, for some reason, always found it easier to be disappointed than to be a disappointment. I hope that makes sense. I found it easier to carry the weight of being hurt than to carry the weight of hurting somebody else. For instance, if I think back on the breakup with Christian last December, there was a lot of pain inside of me. There was a lot of tears on both ends. But the single thing that hurt me the most was to see Christian shatter into a million pieces. That surpassed my own pain. That surpassed my own tears. That was the thing that definitely hurt me the most. And I think a lot of us work like that. I think a lot of us live with a value system like that. And it is in essence a beautiful value system to have until it comes to a point where it becomes self-destructive. And I love how EMDR and this whole therapy thing is teaching me to speak up. And no, I am not yet doing that in a perfect way. I will probably not always choose the right words. I will definitely not always have the right tone of voice, but I'm speaking up. I'm experimenting. It is as if we are moving from Mika 1.0 to Mika 2.0. That's a good metaphor, I think. We keep all the great things from Mika 1.0 and all the, dysfunctional, self-destructive stuff, we leave that behind as we move to Mika 2.0. And Mika 2.0 is still very much beta version. We are very much in the stages of lots of trial and lots of error, but things are, being developed. Things are growing, things are moving forward. And I feel very, very happy about that. And I hope by the time that my next video rolls around, I can tell you the major event that gave me, the boost to go into the future. But that is how my mental health journey has gone in the last 2 months. I hope I made sense. Once again, if you want to know more about EMDR, if this is a story that, rings true to you, if you recognize parts of this, I cannot recommend enough for you to Google it or to YouTube it or to, research it for yourself. It's working wonders for me, and I'm very, very happy about that. And I think that is everything I had to tell you so far. It has not become as long as I was thinking. That's good. So we'll leave it here. Next week, as I said before, I'll be on vacation with my lovely friend Sasha. I will definitely bring my Scarlet Ribbons project, so let's see if I can get some stitching done. And I hope to see you again somewhere in July, probably. Have a nice day, my friends. Ciao, ciao.